Hi, Ange, how you getting on?
I'm good, mate. That's one question. Go on.
Here comes the second. Obviously, a big win last weekend. How much of a bounce can your players take from that, and how good is it to have that just going into this final running of the season with 8 or 9 games left to go?
Yeah, I don't think it's about getting a bounce because it's not like we needed one. We've been going well for quite a while. So, that from our perspective, it's just, continued focus on whatever the challenge may be every week. And, really positive for us last week in a really important game against, our main rivals, and closest to us on the table that, we're able to get the job done. And as I said after the game, the players are showing great character through this whole season to overcome whatever challenge there is, and now the focus is on the next game, and we know again that's going to be another good challenge for us.
Obviously, if you're gonna let me have a second slash third question.
Yeah, go on, mate.
Um, Obviously, there's 12 points clear. How do you, as a manager, you've been in this situation several times before, how do you, as a manager, remain focused on each game as it comes without looking at this is when we can win the title, or start prioritising perhaps the cup semi final? How do you just remain focused on each game as it comes?
Well, it's just like I said, it's just the nature of, I guess, the way we've set things up that the players and myself, the staff, that's all we kind of look at. I don't think looking beyond, say, us playing Kilmarnock away this weekend, which we know is going to be a tough game because they've got really strong home form. They're fighting for stay away from relegation. So, there's 3 points there we're going to have to earn. Looking beyond that has no purpose for whatever reason, whether that's because of, we can see the finish line close, or because there's another competition. I mean, it all becomes irrelevant because we know that if we're not totally focused this weekend, we won't be able to get the job done. And that's been the key to our success so far, and why we've been consistent for so long is that everyone, has embraced the fact that our greatest challenge is the one that's next, and that's Sunday.
And in the aftermath of such a kind of maybe a emotionally draining sort of game last week, did you have to kind of go into this week differently? Maybe give it a bit of time just to kind of unwind.
No, not really. I mean, we kind of had obviously a bit of a longer week, playing sort of Saturday to Sunday, which kind of means our weeks are structured a little bit differently. But again, the way I read what's happening is just by watching the players' behaviour and the staff and the way we're training, and there's no signs there of any sort of aftermath or anything sort of remaining from the game. Once we did our review, the first day we were back in, I think it was the Monday, we did our review, it was done and dusted, and then the players are looking forward to the next one. And, competition for places is still there, so they've got plenty to sort of motivate them. The whole group were having such a great season. There's no real reason for us to do anything other than what we've done, in the lead up to any other game.
There's obviously been a bit of fallout from the game, obviously with the referee Kevin Clancy getting threatening messages as well. Is that concerning as well that the match officials are getting their private lives impacted as well from what happens, during a game and in the aftermath of that?
It's concerning for any person, mate. We shouldn't be even talking about it, that somebody needs to go to those lengths to invade an individual's kind of personal life. We all understand we work in a public space, and with that comes scrutiny, but that should begin and end within the profession of what we work in, not go into our personal lives, and particularly with officials, because for the most part, we have clubs or supporter bases that you'd like to think would go into bat for us in situations like this, but the officials are kind of left out on their own. And I think it's just really a timely reminder to all of us about the language we use, and the reasonings we use behind things. I mean, last week, if you look at it, it was a real sort of derby game. It had a bit of everything, but it wasn't a great game. It was a game that was riddled with mistakes from both sides. Players and dare I say it, managers made a lot more mistakes than the officials did on the day. So why we need to separate that? I mean, it's not like, from my perspective, if anyone analysed that game and things at one moment decided that, then they're not really looking at the big picture, I think from my perspective, there's a decision there, everyone's got opinions on it. It's not fact-based because it's not like it's an offside or something you can clearly see. It's an opinion-based thing, and everyone gives their opinion. Ultimately, one person has to make the decision. It's all right for us to all give our opinion and be really brave, but when you've got to be there and make a decision, that's what, that's where we've got to have respect for the officials and allow them to do their job. And within the context of that, whatever opinions we had, I thought we should have had a penalty at Ibrox, but it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you give your opinion and then you move on. And then you analyse the game. And as I said, that was a mistake-riddled derby last week by both teams. And, to sort of isolate the officials as to the reasoning why the contest went one way or another, I think, gives a false impression. And I think it adds to unnecessary pressure to the people making decisions.
Hi, Ange. I was just wondering, is there any updates on the squad from last week?
Yeah, pretty much, I think. I mean, we've still got training tomorrow, but pretty much status quo. Put it this way, the ones who were injured last week or unavailable last week won't be available this week either. So they're all edging closer to it. But, I don't think, no, none of them will make it back. So pretty much the same as last week at this stage.
And do you have any targets in terms of a final points tally for the season, for the league season?
No, as I've said, is there 21 points to go? That'll do me. If we can get that, I'll be happy.
Hi there, Ange. So the first kind of question I had was, obviously this weekend's game is going to be on, a plastic pitch. There's been histories before certain players struggling to play on that sort of surface to the same level or struggling with injuries, that kind of thing. Does the surface play much of a role at all in choosing your team selection, that kind of thing, or is there certain players that you would, consider not playing in games like that? Is that something you think about at all?
Yeah, it comes into it. Definitely, there, particularly. I mean, without it sort of being this particular case, but if you got certain players who maybe, would feel the effects of a surface like that, you take that into consideration definitely. And from our perspective. I've said before, the game's a little bit different on the artificial surface. Doesn't really change the way we play. We still want to try and sort of play the football we play on a weekly basis. So, the players understand that. We'll have a run on our sort of artificial surface tomorrow just to give them a little bit of taste for it, and then tackle what's before us on Sunday.
Okay. And I mentioned a very similar thing to Alistair before. Celtic are currently on track to potentially set new records for points in a season and goals scored in a season. I know that obviously you're very focused on just taking each game as it comes, but beating that sort of record, how would that make you feel?
Well, I bet you my answer is going to be shorter than Alistair's was. As I said, all that is pretty much irrelevant if we don't win on the weekend. I mean, what's the point of looking beyond that? You can talk about records, you can talk about winning the title and all that, but if we don't win the game, play well and win the game on Sunday, then it all becomes irrelevant. So it may be sort of, I guess, boring or monotonous is probably more the word for some to consistently hear me saying that that's what's important, but that's the reality of it because, if we don't win, then all these questions become redundant, about anything we do because they'll be saying, well, you know what, you didn't really play well on the weekend, you didn't win the game, how are you going to get the guys back refocused? Well, I'm trying to avoid having to answer those kind of questions by making sure that they don't look beyond, what's this weekend. And that was a wordy answer, but I still bet it's less than Alistair's.
Hello, Ange. Obviously, we were talking to Alistair earlier. When you signed him, were you confident that he'd be going right into the first team and making as big an impact as he has this season?
Look, it's not an exact science, but obviously, when bringing guys into the club, I wouldn't bring them in if I didn't believe they could make an impact, and sort of help us and improve us as a team. Every time we bring a player to the club, it's about trying to get us to be stronger, better, and so that's the intent. Like I said, it doesn't always work out, but I think with Alistair and probably Tamaki as well, they're fairly mature guys in terms of, I know this is their first foray into European football, but they're both sort of mid-20s, and obviously Alistair's 24 now, but he's played international football, so my reckoning was he could come in and make an impact immediately, and we needed him too, because we kind of knew Josip was moving on, and we didn't know that Anthony would get an injury that would keep him out from some key games. So having him step in and do so well has been pleasing.
And as has already been said, you're playing on the artificial pitch this weekend. Will that have any impact on the team that you're going to pick, do you think?
Not from the point of view of the way we want to play. That stays pretty consistent. We know what we need to do, and we know the challenge before us. Kilmarnock, have got a really strong home form, and there's a reason for that. They're well organised. Derek has them well structured, and they're fighting for their status in the premiership, mate. So you know that if you just focus on one aspect of the challenge, and whether that's the pitch or whatever, you dismiss the fact that they're also a very effective football side on their home ground. So you've got to embrace it all, and the team selection will come down to the team that I think can get the job done for us on Sunday.
Ange, well, speaking to Alistair, who was detailing the kind of sense of brotherhood that there was currently in the Celtic squad. He says when he goes down, there's 3 or 4 bodies already backing him up, and he'd never really experienced anything like that before. Just how pleasing is that to have a team that are willing to just fight for each other?
Yeah, look, I think it's important. I think with every sort of team-orientated sport that you create, if the players and it's not just the players, I guess the staff, everyone involved can create a bit of a bond there where there's a commonality in the cause you're chasing, then it always helps, because ultimately that that to be successful, you can't rely on individuals. There needs to be a real collective effort in everything you do, and that always helps when there's a bond between particularly the players who are out there every week trying to overcome a challenge. And as I said, the players have created a great environment for themselves here. They drive it. They're the ones that are in charge of it. Led by obviously Callum, the other experienced lads in the group. And I think that manifests itself in them, tackling every challenge with like I said, with a strong collective effort.
Would you say then that you made a conscious effort to kind of cultivating that sense of brotherhood, or does that come from the leadership and the squad with Cal McGregor and James Forrest and the like of the older boys, more experienced?
No, look, it's a bit of everything. Like I said, my role is to create an environment where that kind of thing sort of hopefully grows and flourishes, and that's something that you need to really be conscious of, because for those kind of things, you need to make sure that there's a clear understanding of the expectations in terms of behaviour, in terms of the way we work, and that's kind of set by the leaders within the group. But obviously, I'm the person who's putting it all together. So I've got to be the one that leads by example more than anyone. That if I want a certain kind of environment, then I've got to display those behaviours, and as you said, and then that's taken over by the leaders in the group. But again, it's got to happen sort of organically. You can't force these things, I don't think. You can try and create rules and regulations to make people behave a certain way, but as I've always said in the past, you get good people, those kind of things become easier.
Hi, Ange. Just wanted to ask you about Jota, another big game, another big goal last weekend. It's double figures for goals and assists. You must be delighted with what you're getting from him this season.
Yeah, he's been great. You know, we obviously had a great season last year, and you know we were fortunate then to be able to sort of get him on permanently, and he's really embraced the football club. He's embraced you know the way we play, and you know he's embraced his own sort of journey in wanting to improve and continually develop as a footballer. And I think we've seen that. I think I've certainly seen growth in him. The talent's always been there. He's just really getting a lot clever and smarter about how to use that, and becoming a lot more disciplined in making sure that, you know, without it curtailing his sort of creativity, that he really, you know, works hard for the team. And you saw that last week. You know, that the goal he scored was some great individual brilliance, but it came from his willingness to work hard for the team in a defensive sense. And you know, that's been great for all our attacking players to embrace that side of the game. They get rewards for it, like he did, in terms of goals and assists. But the fact that, you know, they're willing to do that side of the game, and like I said, it doesn't curtail the creativity they have and the individual brilliance they have. But he's been one that's really matured, and it's great to see. And I think there's more to come.
He was in and around the wider squad with Portugal just ahead of the World Cup. Not the easiest squad to break into, but do you believe he's got the ability to make that step up?
Why not? I mean, you know, I think far be it from me to tell any player, you know, what their limit may or may not be. But why not? I mean, the one thing about him since he's got here, he's always delivered in the big games. He scored in Europe last year, he scored in Europe this year. So it's not like, you know, his talent sort of diminishes at the higher level. So, you know, I think he's proven that. And like I said, for us, his willingness to continue to improve and work hard is great, because we're getting the benefits of it. And you know, I think with all the players, I'm not certainly going to tell them how far they can reach and you know, where their potential may lie or takes them. As you said, he plays for a country with some outstanding talent, outrageous talent. But the fact that he's on their radar shows that, you know, he's definitely you know, developing and in the discussions for them.